Good evening to everyone out there in television land. I am attorney Melissa Williams. I am actually a volunteer attorney and the executive director of the Wiley Resource Center legal support program, and you're on with us tonight. We have one of our board members, our distinguished co-host. I'm going to step over and let him introduce himself as well.
Yes, my name is Larry Kimbrough. I'm the owner of Stay Focused Network. Like she said, a board member, and again, thank you for inviting me.
We love to have you with us each week. For the next 25 minutes, we're going to be live, which means that you can call in with any questions that you may have. And we're going to be talking about not only legal support, but our expungement, sealing, and pardon initiative for criminal records, and that's ESP initiative for short. And also House Bill 5723, which is a piece of legislation in Illinois that is proposing to expand criminal records sealing. And we really need your support and your help with getting this bill passed. So those are the things that we're going to be discussing on this evening. So Larry, we ran across some information. We have Facebook and Twitter accounts for the Illinois sealing bill, and so we're always getting new information about criminal records issues, and we're sharing information with other folks. And so what we've noticed is that some other states are being much more progressive with criminal records issues than we are in the state of Illinois. And so what we want to do is to make sure that we discuss a couple of those states with you in order to let you know that this is what we're proposing is not something that's unique. It's happening all across the country. Second chance discussions are happening all around the United States. So let's just jump right into it. Larry, one of the articles that you were telling me about had to deal with ban the box in the state of Indiana. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, it was a question that was brought up about banning the box on applications, or job applications. One of the people that I was discussing it with was saying that it kind of voids out, or weeds out people that might have had a felony in their background. And to me, it was just interesting to read that. And I really don't understand why Illinois is just not so aggressive as this, or at least on that subject matter. And
so our sponsor, our chief sponsor of the sealing bill legislation, House Bill 5723, is also sponsoring House Bill 1210, which is ban the box. And the good thing is that this legislation had passed both the Illinois House and Senate in the past. It was just a matter of waiting for the governor to sign off on it. And so this piece of legislation is being brought back up. And what ban the box does is exactly like you said, Larry, on employment applications, especially for the state of Illinois. The argument is that why are we asking people if they have criminal backgrounds? Why is that even an issue? You're going to find that out in a background check anyway. And as we found last week, the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission has said that that is not something that you can consider and just exclude people from the application and the hiring process just because they have a criminal background. So, in fact, everything seems ripe as far as discussion of these issues. Everything seems ripe to pass legislation that would ban the box in the state of Illinois. Now, in Indiana, I believe it was in Gary, Indiana, they're really concerned about this issue as well. So they have a ban the box piece of legislation on the table also. And then secondly, the state of Ohio actually has passed with bipartisan support, meaning both Republicans and Democrats in the state of Ohio have passed sealing legislation that says that folks who have certain offenses on their background should be able to get their records sealed so that they can get back out and they can start working again.
Now, someone was talking before when we were talking about the House bill. They were saying if you had an offense, they were scared if you had an offense in the past and you got your bill, your criminal or what is it called again?
The sealing bill?
The sealing, no, the criminal background. If you got your criminal background, if you got sealed again and you committed another offense, that they were scared that's going to happen over and over again. What do you say about that?
So let's kind of break this down a little bit. What we're proposing in House Bill 5723 is not to change the current law. It's simply to expand the number of felony offenses and nonviolent felony offenses at that can be sealed. The current law says, and this should be comforting to the legislators who are concerned about folks going out and reoffending and you not being able to find out what it is that they did in their past. The current law says that if someone reoffends, then you have a right, or the courts are going to have a right to open that sealed record and unseal it. And you can't just go back after your record has been unsealed by the courts and say, hey, can you seal my record for me again if you have committed and been convicted of an additional offense. So that is something that everybody needs to be aware of. You know, you do not want to reoffend once you have had your record sealed. So let's take a little time and let's break down tonight, once again, as we have a couple of weeks ago, the difference between expungement and sealing. And if you have questions, please feel free to call the number on your screen and ask those questions. Expungement is to destroy the record, and that's the holy grail. That is what everyone wants. Okay. Unfortunately, that is not what everyone qualifies to have, right? So anytime you have multiple offenses on your record, let's say you have 2 offenses on your record. One case was thrown out. One case you got conditional discharge for. And conditional discharge is pretty similar to probation. Okay. You know, they tell you need to report. They tell you there are certain programs that you need to participate in, and you successfully do those things. And that's great, right? But the problem is that conditional discharge is a conviction. And anytime you have a conviction on your record, you are not eligible for expungement. That means that you're going to have to look at one of the other options. It doesn't mean everything is over for you. It just means that you have to explore either sealing or executive clemency, which would be pretty much the same thing as a pardon, okay, right? So there are going to be certain things that are non-convictions, right? So arrests where you never went to court, cases that were thrown out, supervisions, right? Not for DUI, though. I know some people get supervisions for DUI, but that's a different classification, okay, right? But if you had a supervision, or if you had a special probation, which is called a 710, 1410 probation, which usually is dealing with low-level drug offenses, right? Or misdemeanor retail thefts that you have out there. Those types of things, those, if you successfully complete them, and that's the only thing that you have on your record, then you may be eligible for an expungement, right? So expungement is an all or nothing process. We look at your record as a whole. If there's one offense on there that you have a conviction on, you're not going to be eligible for expungement. So you need to explore those other options, okay? Now, let's talk about sealing. And that's what the sealing bill is, the same thing, right? When we're saying your record is not destroyed, but it is locked away from general public view, right? And the reason that it's locked away is because you have reformed, right? You've changed your life in some way, right? You're on the straight and narrow now. So you want to get legitimate employment. You want to be able to get housing, or not be a problem for your family members who are allowing you to stay with them and keep them out of their housing, right? So, or you want to go to school. So that's why you usually are going to try to get your record sealed. Unlike expungement, with sealing, we're looking at your record on a case-by-case basis. So let's go back to those 2 cases that the person had, right? So let's say they had the one case that was thrown out. So we know that legally, because the law is what dictates to us what can be sealed. Legally, you can apply for sealing for a case that has been thrown out, right? Has been dismissed, okay? That second case that they got conditional discharge on, we have to look at the type of offense that it was. The current law says that if it was a nonviolent misdemeanor, or if it was one of 3 class 4 felonies, then it is something that is sealable. And those 3 felonies are prostitution, Possession of cannabis or possession of a controlled substance for personal use, right? That's why they're class 4. They're low level. Okay. So in Illinois, the classes go, always remember, you got X, 1, 2, 3, 4. And right now in Illinois, only those 3 class 4 felonies are sealable. Okay. So let's say you got that conditional discharge and it was for a nonviolent misdemeanor or one of those 3 class 4 felonies. Then we could apply for sealing on that case as well. But let's say it was for something higher. I know a lot of people, and I've met a lot of people over the time that we've been doing this, who have class 3 retail thefts. Well, they got the conditional discharge, but it's the type of offense that's preventing them from getting that sealed, right? So their option for that is to go to the governor and the prison review board and to ask for what is called an executive clemency or a pardon. Now, let me say a couple of things also. House Bill 5723 expands this. It changes this so that those folks who have those retail thefts, or I met a gentleman out in Columbus Park on last Saturday, and he told me that, he committed a lot of his offenses because he was on drugs. And so there may have been some residential burglaries that he was involved in. But that was 5, 10, 15 years ago. He didn't do any strong arm robberies, didn't rob anybody with a gun, none of that. Right? So there are nonviolent offenses that he has on his record. House Bill 5723 says that we should be able to seal those offenses on people's records. So that's why this is really, really important, and we really need you all to get involved.
And how can a person get involved with this whole movement and passing of House Bill 5723?
Well, Larry, what we need to see people do, we need people to give us a call or text. This is the number for Operation 24, which is one of the organizations that is a community supporter for this legislation. There are over 75 organizations around the state of Illinois, including yours, Stay Focused Network, including the Wiley Resource Center, including Safer Foundation, Cabrini Green Legal Aid. There are just so many different organizations. The NAACP and probably about 20 different communities around the state of Illinois are all lobbying for this bill and saying that this is something that needs to be passed. But what we need to see happen is we need you all out in TV land to help get this bill passed. If you give us a call, you'll be talking to Miss Val. We'll let you know who your state representative and state senator are if you do not currently know who they are. And we will also give you information for some of the people that have not been supporting this legislation, because you need to contact them as well.
Okay.
There are some other things you need to do. You need to tell your family and friends that live downstate, because quite frankly, the places where representatives are currently voting no are downstate, where the prisons are, where they're making money off of people who are repeat offenders. So we need to make sure that we are contacting those legislators in those areas as well.
I know we had talked about organizations doing things together as far as when they have their community meetings, doing things as a group. Is it very important to call those state reps as a group? And since we have so many members, do you think it's important?
Absolutely. Absolutely. They need to hear from numbers of people. If you think that your phone call doesn't matter, right? If you're sitting at home right now and you're like, that's really not going to work. It really doesn't matter. Well, in Ohio, it worked.
Okay.
Because they just passed the sealing bill. So, you really, and it's not just for House Bill 5723, but for all legislation, you really need to be reaching out to your legislators. Your tax dollars are paying their salaries, right? You're voting for them. So, you need to allow them to work for you. Tell them what it is that you need in your community. Ask them to get out there and to stomp and to fight for you.
Right.
There are a couple of other things that have come up. We've heard people, I know Larry has had some discussion with folks in the community who have said, oh, well, House Bill 5723 is not as strong as it used to be. It's not as good a bill as it used to be. Well, what we've learned from working with State Representative Ford, State Representative Howard, and the list, because we have a list of about 20 state representatives who are co-sponsors on this bill as well. And what we've learned is that, you know, you have to take baby steps sometimes. Okay. You're not going to necessarily be able to go in and get amnesty and expungement for everyone that has ever committed a criminal offense. The reality is we're struggling just to get these offenses sealed. Right. So they're not trying to hear you saying that you want to get your murder expunged or you want to have a violent crime. You want to get amnesty for that. They're not hearing that. So what we have to do is we have to be willing to make this, as Larry always says, a movement and not just a moment. Right. You know, with Trayvon Martin, when it first happened, everybody was so upset and everybody was putting their hoodies on and putting it on their Facebook page. Right. And now, you know, George Zimmerman is out on bail. Where were we at then? Were we marching then? So the bottom line is our mindsets have to change. And it can't just be the older people who are out on the front lines. It has to be some of our younger people as well.
Okay. It's very important for the young people. All movements that started in the 60s and 70s, they started with the younger people. Mm-hmm. I don't understand why we're missing that element right now, especially with this and everything that's going on, you know. I just think it's very important to have events, and I think we have an event coming up with the youth, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. Larry, did you want to talk a little bit about the event that's coming up on Saturday?
Oh, well, I'll try to touch on it a little bit. I'll probably let you elaborate on a little bit more. But the movie to be selected, we're going to maybe talk or have a movie, and we're going to talk about a couple different things. We're going to let the youth, correct me, if I know you're going to correct me anyway, I don't even know why I said that. We're going to try to let the youth lead the discussion. And into that discussion, we're going to talk about different things as far as how the House bill, ceiling bill is important for them at this time. And even if you're not 18, but we're hoping that everybody that comes out that is 18 is going to vote and is going to register. You want to elaborate on some more stuff? Because I know I'm missing some stuff like that.
Thank you, Larry, for telling us. We have a collaboration of organizations on the west side of Chicago because that's where our home bases are. And we're calling ourselves We the People. This is the We the People Project. This is the first event on this Saturday, July the 21st, from 10 a.m. to 12 p.m., so only a couple of hours of people's time, over at ICE Theater. And we're going to be talking about the violence in our communities and how we can get involved to disrupt it, right, and to stop it. We're going to be talking about the Urban Weatherization Initiative, which we talked a little bit about last week, the grants, the training, and the jobs with the Urban Weatherization Initiative. So if you want more information about that, if you're interested in green jobs or just a job, we need you to come out and be a part on Saturday. We'll talk more about the ceiling bill as far as people getting involved. And the great thing about this event is that if people bring in their voter registration card or if they register to vote on the spot, then they're going to be getting into this event for free, and there will be some door prizes as well. So we really want to get together and create that feeling, like Larry always says, of a movement and not just a moment.
Okay. And I think we have a caller on the line. We want to get her in. Caller, you on?
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear me, caller?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I just wanted to comment with the comment that she made, or one of you guys made, in regards to the older people that were fighting for, equal rights.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was more unity, back then years ago. And what disturbs me most is that the youth or the young people don't see that. I mean, when they go out and commit a crime, they can't find a job.
Right.
They have to go through the expungement process and clear up their records and so forth. And then on top of that, you have educated older people out here, or people, with degrees, and can't find a job.
Absolutely.
So I don't even understand why they won't get themselves together and see, they can't see, what's going on. And it's amazing.
Right.
And, caller, we really appreciate you for calling in and giving your comment. The bottom line is that, we've got to work together, because in Lawndale, for instance, and that's where our home base is at, we have some great older folks that have been on the front lines for the longest time, really trying to do things to improve our community. And over the last few years, we've seen a number of them die off. And
right, and that's the thing. A lot of them are dealing with sicknesses at the ages that they are, and trying to make it. And then you would think the young people would step up to the plate and take responsibility.
Absolutely.
I mean, you can go into an alley where you see a bunch of young people sitting out in the front instead of going in the back and cutting down the weeds. They sitting up there on egg crates or something. And it's disturbing because we as a people is still fighting out here every day. The black unemployment rate is at 16 or 14%. It only went down 2 percentage points since Barack Obama became president. And that should be initiative enough to go out there and vote to keep the Republicans at bay, because what they want to do is they want to give it, if they're giving the president a hard time, they're going to give us a hard time, which they're doing right now.
Okay. And we thank you, caller, for your comment. And, I just want to respond to one more thing that she said. We had this discussion with some folks earlier today about the importance of voter registration and voting in our community. And we're over in the 24th Ward, and we had a heated aldermanic race last year. And the bottom line is that we had this discussion. A number of the candidates had this same point of view. If we're not voting, that's why we're not getting the services that we want. Right. And that's why some of us are not getting the elected officials in a lot of our communities that we would like to see in there giving us the services that we need, because we don't who's going to listen to folks that aren't even coming out to vote. Exactly. So that's why we're saying voter registration is critical, not just because of this presidential election, but every election that we have. We need to know who the candidates are. And we're talking to our young people, 18 to 25 especially, right? We need to know who our candidates are, what they stand for, if they're willing to stand up and fight for us. We need to get on the ball. It's really not fair to expect our older people to carry this weight. On Saturday, we had an event with one of our co-organizations, Action Now. And Action Now was doing a roll call with the 11th District Police Department over in Lawndale because someone had been robbed, and carjacked from their home, right? And it was so many older people from Action Now, and that's great. But Action Now also has to come from the younger people as well. And so we're asking you all to make sure that you get involved with House Bill 5723, because as the caller said, this is something that is important for all of us, right? We've got people who have offenses that are 20, 30, 40 years old, and there's no law out there protecting them from, having folks tell them that they can't have a job because of offenses that they had 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago. Right. So let's get this bill passed. They did it in Ohio. They did it Republicans and Democrats together. They got that bill passed.
I think we have come to a point where the actual grown people, like you said, the adults or whatnot, they have to lead the youth, and the youth have to understand what the consequences are when they make these actions. They have to take a stand right now and actually get out there and vote. Come together, just like if you were going to a barbecue or whatnot. Come out there Saturday and register to vote. Do something that's right and positive. Support your legislation.
Absolutely. And the bottom line, too, is we're going to be talking about the Urban Weatherization Initiative. And we know for a fact that there are jobs on the back end of the training. I know that a lot of people are frustrated because they've been through 1 million training programs and there were no jobs on the back end. This program has jobs on the back end for the people who successfully complete the training and their certification. I know that we have a caller, and right before we take that caller, I just want to flash for you all to see the telephone number and the web address for the Wiley Resource Center if you need help with your criminal background. If you want to have your record evaluated, then we want you to make sure that you give us a call, and our legal staff will be sure to assist you.
Let's quickly take this call real quick. Caller?
Hello, this is Brother Williams.
Yes.
Earl!
And I'm calling because
Turn your TV down, Earl.
I'm calling because I want you to explain to the young people in the community how important this SEAL bill is for them to become economically responsible and a contributor to society in our community.
Okay, we'll do, Earl. We'll do.
20 seconds to say it.
Well, I have 20 seconds. So if you want to hear the full explanation, we need you to come out on Saturday to the Ice Lawndale Theater and check us out there. But the bottom line is you really need to make sure that you get your record seal so you can get a job. That's at the heart of all of this. And so we just want to make sure that you come out and that you visit with us on Saturday as well. That's all for us on today.
All right.
Thank you for having us in your home. We'll see you again next week, Monday night at 7 p.m.